100 of America's top military leaders were summoned from around the globe, apolitical officers who remained silent as their commander-in-chief took the stage and offered this greeting.
You can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank, there goes your future.
That set the tone for more awkward moments to come, including the president's suggestion that dangerous U.S. cities like those where National Guard are currently deployed should be used as training grounds for U.S. troops.
This is going to be a major part for some of the people in this room. That's a war, too. It's a war from within.
Illinois Democratic Senator Tammy Duckworth, an Iraq War veteran, said Trump's proposal is illegal
and unconstitutional. You cannot deploy our military onto the streets of our cities.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth opened the meeting and ripped into diversity initiatives put in place by previous administrations.
No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions.
That includes, he said, a return to the highest male physical fitness standards.
I don't want my son serving alongside troops who are out of shape, or in combat unit with females who can't meet the same combat arms physical standards as men.
And he took aim at the highest-ranking officers.
It's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look.
Vermont Democrat Peter Welch said the meeting was unnecessary and a bad idea.
It's a further effort to politicize the military. It's very, very alarming. There is no reason to bring all of these people at enormous taxpayer expense to Washington to get a pep talk.
Hegseth told the audience they could disagree with them, but
the words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign.
Charlie, we did not hear any reaction from the generals and the admirals in the room. Take us through why that's the case.
Well, Maurice, it's part of the decorum of protocol for officers not to applaud or cheer during political events or even some rallies. But while there were a few smiles, a bit of laughter here and there to some of the things that President Trump was saying, some polite applause, for the most part, the room was silent through roughly 2 hours of speeches.
Charlie, the Secretary Hegseth is reviewing the military handling of hazing, bullying, harassment. Explain what that's about.
Yeah, so this is an overhaul, and if you'll pardon me for reading. So Secretary Hegseth, there should be an overhaul of department policy defining the conduct by service members, and that includes hazing, bullying, harassment. They say it's clearly broad and promising to dismiss the records of tough leaders with past infractions.
Okay, Charlie Daggett at the Pentagon, thank you.
Cupid doesn't lie, but you wanna unless you give it a try, give it a try. But you wanna unless you give it a try. Hey, girl, if I tell you I need you, that doesn't mean that I don't care.
What a...
If I tell
oh God,
you
it's still going. Okay. Yeah.
Don't you think that I will never be there here? Cupid.
Is that a real song? Is that a Drake song?
One of my favorite songs of all time.
Your songs?
Nope.
Who sings them?
112.
Let's let them sing it.
I'm so freaking pissed right now. This is bullshit.
First, just your reaction to all that you heard today at Quantico.
Well, it's one of the strangest, most incoherent national security events I've ever encountered. What we were seeing today, the president sounded completely incoherent. It was a bitter, partisan, sort of savage tone address. It must have horrified our allies around the world. I think it'll be unsettling to the force. And then Secretary of Defense getting up there and pulling a sort of Rambo lecture with his, civil affairs officer status in an infantry battalion in Iraq, giving a Rambo lecture to a bunch of senior enlisted guys and officers who grew up in combat for 20 years. A lot of them are wearing Purple Hearts and decorated for valor, and their sons and daughters also fought, and many were killed or injured. So it was a strange event, and some of it was deeply unsettling. Who says we're going to train U.S. military formations in American cities?
I do want to know how you think his new directives, particularly on physical fitness for men in combat, how is all of that going to impact women in the military? Will they be able to rise in rank? What about recruitment? What about a sense of safety when you think historically that sex crimes against women have been prevalent?
Well, first of all, I don't think there's any question that the Secretary of Defense remarks impugned women, minorities in uniform, saying if they got promoted, it obviously was some DEI thing rather than a promotion based on merit. Nothing could be farther from the truth. The women who are serving in infantry battalions, the women who successfully have gotten through Ranger School, 30 or 40, are fully qualified to neutral gender standards. I also think that, there's a notion that Hegseth was essentially telling the force, you people are not warriors. I am. We're going to change things. The Armed Forces of the United States are the most lethal, disciplined, aggressive military on the face of the earth. Incredible technology, training, and leadership. So that was badly received by all in the room. They won't say anything about it. It is not the place of the senior military leadership to push back on the President of the United States. Right. That's Congress, voters, the judicial system, and the media.
I think locally, and maybe most importantly in this speech, Trump's suggestion that we'll use U.S. cities as training grounds for the military, naming even Portland. Some may wonder, is this leading toward martial law down the road? I mean, what did you make of those statements, and where are we going with this policy?
Well, we don't know. The language is completely inappropriate. The basis of the Constitution, the way we view the military, is they're there to deter foreign wars. They are prohibited under the Posse Comitatus Act from collecting evidence, from arresting civilians. So it's just inappropriate to think that and by the way, the National Guard are our friends and neighbors. There's 430,000 of them. They're vital to the country's safety. When there's a storm, when they need to deliver the mail, you name it, the National Guard is there. So this is just heading in the wrong direction. National Guard troops cannot sort out community policing. They're not trained for it, and it's the wrong thing to do.
If you were worried about that meeting Pete Hegseth was having with all the generals of the United States, you can see about halfway through the speech that he realizes the longer he talks, the more he's making these men hate his guts. Donald Trump took the stage. No applause, no response to his speech. They stood there in silence and just let him rant. Why? Because the military already hates Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth. One has disrespected them countless times. The other is an inept idiot who has no military experience whatsoever. The military is like a giant fraternity. If you have never been in it, they are far less likely to listen to you. This is a sign that control is slipping because Trump and Hegseth know that they need the military support to pull off any of the things they want to do. They also know that their approval with the military is rapidly dropping the more things they do. So they're desperate to try and get them back on their side, but every speech they make just makes the military hate them more. Hell, they didn't even try to go for that weak loyalty oath stuff at today's meeting. Just like, hey, have this alpha male speech about manliness that Andrew Tate could have read. Do you like us yet? The answer was no. The answer was obviously no. Saving grace right now is that despite how badly Trump and his cronies want a dictatorship, they are so incompetent that they have almost no chance of pulling it off. It's not to say they're not getting horrible stuff done, but they will never be able to fully achieve their goal, even if Vance steps in, because they hate him too.
Only in America, as Don King would say, could you come from being a Fox News host after serving in the military, or proven to be a drunk on the job, have the tattoos of an Aryan Nation starter kit, and then summon a room full of generals and speak to them about appearance and the rules of engagement. Only in America. Only in this administration. Only with these people, the true DEI hires. Oh, and we also saw you and JFK Jr., whatever his name is. You couldn't do one pull-up. You couldn't do one pull-up. You had to kick your legs up like a toddler to do one pull-up, and you're talking to military people about physical fitness. You really can't make this stuff up.
Embarrassing because I'm speaking in front of people who have a job that other people don't want, but now you have a job that everybody wants. So I think that has to make you feel good. It's one of the reasons I love being here today, because I wanted to say that. I have to say that everybody wants to be in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines. If you think the Coast Guard and Space Force. And you must have felt like hell when you have a wife or a husband at home and you used to read the numbers that we can't get people to join the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard. You must have felt like, I have a job that nobody wants. That doesn't feel good. Well, now you have a job that is brimming over with people wanting it. They want it. And you're able to get a much higher quality because now you have your choice. You want so many. And we're going to have many, many people that aren't going to be able to join because of the fact that we don't need them at this moment. But think of it, what a difference that is from, I could just imagine 2 years ago, you're reading front page articles in the New York Times, of course, and Wall Street Journal. They always give us unfair stories. But they played it so big. They were playing it so big. Nobody wants to join the Army, the Marines, the Air Force. They don't want to join. They don't want to join the Coast Guard at all. Nobody wants to join. Nobody wants to join our police forces. Our police forces also. It's almost went hand in hand. And I used to say, boy, I'm speaking in front of the military today, and it's embarrassing because I'm speaking in front of people who have a job that other people don't want, but now you have a job that everybody wants. So I think that has to make you feel good. It's one of the reasons I love being here today, because I wanted to say that. I have to say that everybody wants to be in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines. If you think the Coast Guard and Space Force, our beautiful Space Force, it's a whole different world. And now they're signing up, by the way, seriously big numbers for the police. Dangerous job, isn't it? Huh? Fire department. But that's the paving the way for progress once thought almost impossible. I mean, a year ago, you wouldn't have thought that was possible. A year ago, they were talking about making the military smaller because they can't get the people to join. We're thinking about making it larger because we have so many people. And it's nice to be able to cut people because of merit that aren't really qualified for any reason, a physical reason, a mental reason. You don't have to take them anymore because you have the pick of the litter. And they all want to be with you. They all want your job. They want to be with you. They want to work with you. They'll even take your job, you know. Got to be a little bit sharp. You got to watch it. But everybody wants to be doing what you're doing now. What a difference when I speak to you. And I can say that as opposed to a couple of years ago when I was talking to rooms where they were desperate to get people and they couldn't get them. What a difference a presidential election can make. That's all it is.
So I had a follower of mine send me this picture yesterday. This is a Marine Corps general looking at Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth, or as they will forever be known now, Fat Man and Little Boy, because they bombed so hard yesterday. But he sent me this picture, and he's like, every single general in that room had this look on their face. And I will tell you this much. As a U.S. Marine, when a U.S. Marine with this kind of face, that many stars on his shoulder, and that much color on his chest is looking at you with that fucking expression on his face, I will tell you right now, you are about to be part of a conversation that is going to ruin the rest of your fucking week.
Donald J. Trump.
I love this shit. You people can make all the excuses you want, but Obama didn't seem to have the same trouble that Trump or Hegseth did.
Of the United States, President Barack Obama.
President of the United States of America and our Commander-in-Chief, President Barack Obama.
The President of the United States, Barack Obama.
I fucking love when people who weren't in the military come preach to me about fucking military code of conduct and how shit's supposed to be. And if you were in the military, then you should know that the military code of conduct states that yes, although you need to come to attention when the commander-in-chief or a high-ranking official military member enters a room, the highest-ranking official military member of that room, when they give you the permission to be at ease or applaud or break attention, that's usually your cue to break attention. And all of those generals, even when Trump told them that they could applaud and relax, they chose not to. That was intentional. And for all of you who are just genuinely curious on why they didn't clap, however they laughed and saluted, the military, they have to really be careful on how much they participate in protest, even silent protest. They still have to follow military code of conduct, such as saluting your commander-in-chief. And as far as that laugh goes, when he said, oh, you can leave if you want, but you lose your rank and your future, that was more like a laugh like, you can fucking try.
There seems to be a lot of people that think that the generals and admirals were not allowed to clap. They must not have seen when General Dan Kane came out, because he came out first and he was introduced. He is the general for the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And I would like to show you that video and you tell me.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane.
All right, generals, admirals, senior leaders.
So there you have it. Sounds to me like there was some applause, right? And I think that those individuals were sending a message after what they heard, when they were basically being told that we're going to start attacking our American cities. People can now start putting, drill instructors can put their hands on recruits. We are taking away resources to report things that should not be going on those hotlines. And I mean, just a host of other things. So I think The silence was deafening for many reasons, and it was a message, and it was heard loud and clear.
Today, at my direction, each service will ensure that every requirement for every combat MOS, for every designated combat arms position, returns to the highest male standard only. This is not about preventing women from serving. We very much value the impact of female troops. Our female officers and NCOs are the absolute best in the world. But when it comes to any job that requires physical power to perform in combat, those physical standards must be high and gender neutral. If women can make it, excellent. If not, it is what it is. If that means no women qualify for some combat jobs, so be it. That is not the intent, but it could be the result, so be it. It will also mean that weak men won't qualify because we're not playing games. Good morning and welcome to the War Department, because the era of the Department of Defense is over.
The most this could have been an email meeting has happened. The speech itself was pretty good, but requiring the top generals and admirals to be there in person was pretty stupid. I mean, we're talking about the entire military apparatus being told to be in one room, telling the entire world about it, and then live streaming it? This means they could have all attended via video teleconference. Using our military as props in any way for television, it pisses me off. But I digress. Let's get back to the speech. Ultimately, it was about warrior ethos and setting high standards.
In other words, to our enemies, F-A-F-O. If necessary, our troops can translate that for you.
They don't need it translated. They're top generals. He told the generals that they are done with what he called woke politics, and from now on, all combat troops have to meet male-level physical standards. In other words, if you can't meet the same standards as men in combat roles, he's basically saying you might have to find another job. He also called out promoting officers based on identity instead of merit and said that they're not doing that anymore. And he said he's ordering the department to review the definitions of so-called toxic leadership, bullying, and hazing to empower leaders to enforce standards without the fear of retribution and second guessing. In a nutshell, regarding all of these policies, this is what he kind of says is a litmus test, the principle in which he's basing all of this off of.
Would I want my eldest son, who is 15 years old, eventually joining the types of formations that we are currently wielding? If in any way the answer to that is no, or even yes, but, then we're doing something wrong. Because my son is no more important than any other American citizen who dons the cloth.
All in all, the speech was well presented, had some good points, highlighted some changes coming down the road. And then President Trump came out.
I don't know if any of my Marine Army people here can confirm this, but a veteran posted this on one of my pages and said that if a general of this rank, I mean, and look at the dude, he's like covered head to toe in medals, okay? Like, I don't think they give those out for bone spurs. So if a guy of that rank is throwing world-class shade like this, then watch the fuck out. So little Petey, Drunky McDrunkington Kegseth, had his Ralph Wiggum big boy meeting. Looks like he fucked around immensely, and he's about to find out even more immensely. Because this general right here, he looks like he eats faces for a living. Like, he literally looks like he could fucking house Pete Hegseth if he were, like, on Thorazine on his deathbed. Like, he looks like how I look when I wake up and I don't have any coffee left and I haven't read a big, beautiful obituary of a certain somebody. This dude does not look happy at all. So again, any of my Marine and Army people, can you confirm if a guy of this rank looks like this? What do you think the consequences might be?
The room at Quantico was filled with men and women who have spent their lives not just carrying rifles, but carrying the burden of thought. They've studied Sun Tzu, who warned that the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. They know that lethality without restraint is not strategy, it is butchery. They have wrestled with Clausewitz, who declared that war is the continuation of politics by other means, a truth that demands clarity of purpose before the first shot is ever fired. They have waded through Thucydides's grim lesson that the strong do what they can and the weak suffer what they must. And they have vowed to be better than that cynicism by choosing law and restraint over barbarism. They've read Grant, who wrote of the Civil War that the art of war is simple enough. Find out where your enemy is, get at him as soon as you can, strike him as hard as you can, and keep moving. But even Grant, bloody and relentless, knew victory meant binding the wounds of a nation, not gloating in violence. The point is this. These generals live by philosophies that understand war as the most consequential of human actions. Their decisions have carried lives in the balance. They know that raw violence is a tool only to be used with precision, with justification, and with the dignity of restraint. They know that war has consequences that echo for generations. Pete Hegseth does not know this. He is a little boy with a big mouth, waving around the strength of older siblings he has never had to become himself. He mistakes slogans for wisdom, violence for professionalism, and brute force for strategy. He preaches lethality like a child who's never had to carry the ghost of the battlefield home with him. He sees the military as a weapon to be swung, not a burden to be borne. And the truth is that the United States military is the most powerful force on earth, not because it is the most violent, but because it has chosen discipline over chaos, professionalism over cruelty. We've set the standards for ethics, for rules of engagement, for what it means to fight with dignity. We may not always agree with the wars our leaders order, but our service personnel carry themselves with pride and decorum. There are ghosts, yes. There always are. But there is also pride in knowing that we do not wage war like a third-rate regime. If we abandon the Geneva Conventions, if we reduce ourselves to brutality and call it strength, then the world will follow us into the pit. Other nations will cast off restraint, and humanity will slide backwards into darkness. The final truth is that the United States is not under existential threat. We are not besieged. We are not Rome sacked by barbarians. There is no justification for turning the most disciplined and capable force on earth into a bludgeon of political vengeance. Only a child would ask for that. Only a fool would think of that as strength. So let us name what they said at Quantico and why those words matter, and why they make him look small. He called for a tearing down of guardrails. He mocked standards and promised to strip away the legal and moral constraints that keep a professional force professional. He spoke of renaming the institution as if a new placard could remake history. He derided internal checks and inspector processes as weaponized complaints. He argued for higher, male-based fitness standards, as if physical benchmarks alone made wisdom and judgment irrelevant. And he flirted with the idea of loosing our forces to act with fewer restraints on foreign battlefields, and chillingly also here at home. Those are not abstract reforms. They are seismic changes to the contract between the soldier and the state. And these words make him look small because every officer in that room has seen what happens when those guardrails go away. They've watched insurgencies grow out of careless violence. They've read the reports that it turned into viral recruitment videos for radicals. They've knelt beside cots where names are written on slips of paper and learned that nothing erases a family's grief except truth and restraint and accountability. When Hegseth promises to loosen the leashes, the generals hear not courage, but the appetite of chaos. Not clarity, but impetuousness. They know the arithmetic of consequence. For every enemy struck without care, there are 10 who will rise in hatred, and 50 children who will remember the smoke. His rhetoric seeks applause. It seeks the horny little rush of spectacle where a man can feel large on a podium. He is pleading for a patent moment, a single frame to hang on a wall, without the patience to earn it. That is the counterfeit of leadership. Real leaders sit at maps at 3 a.m. and argue with lawyers about the rules of engagement because they know those rules keep the republic sane. They rise and sleep with the calculus of loss in their mouths, and they do not monetize war on cable to sell a goddamn book. The scandalous irony is that the enemies we faced across deserts and mountains were often brutal and reckless. They lacked our care and our discipline, our doctrine and our adherence to some shred of law. They fought dirty because they had no better answer. And we outperformed them precisely because we did not mirror their methods. We won because we were better. We were better organized, more disciplined, and more crucially restrained when necessary. To adopt their cruelty is not to become stronger, it is to become smaller than what we claim to be. So call him what you will. An airman who traded a uniform for a TV, a weekend soldier who dreams in headlines, a man with a law degree who believes paper alone confers wisdom. He wants the thunder without the ledger, the graveyard of applause without the graves. The generals did not need to say this out loud. Their silence said it for them. That a man who never carried the full weight of command could not stand before those who have and lecture them on sacrifice. And if we let this moment pass as a spectacle, as theater for the hungry and the proud, then we will have accepted a dangerous proposition. That performance is a substitute for prudence, and that slogans can replace study, and that cruelty is a kind of courage. But if we remember the books those men carried, if we honor the restraint that kept our forces human, then we will understand the true cost of this folly and refuse to pay it. Pete wants thunder, so he stands beneath flags and bangs a drum until his palms bleed, and he thinks this noise is command, but noise is cheap. And the generals at Quantico know the price of silence and the price of sound. He will buy this platform with other people's reverence and rents the language of sacrifice to sell a show. He trades in medals like props and cues as lines to cameras and then wonders why the room will not clap. It's because that is not courage. It's commerce. Defiance till death.
I just listened to Pete Hegseth and Trump address the top brass in the military. And I knew that this speech was either going to be about a growing global threat that America needs to prepare for, or it was going to be about using the military on civilians in America, weaponizing and politicizing the military. I'm not really going to talk about Pete's speech. That shit was written by ChatGPT. Look, I think Pete is a joke. I think this is going to backfire in his face. I think he's inexperienced, and I don't think he knows what he's doing. He wants to create the military like it's some 1990s action film, but society has changed, technology has changed, the world has changed, and it's not going to work. The main thing that I want to talk about is Trump's speech. You know, he didn't mention America's enemies very often, right? China, Russia. He mentioned the enemy within America, right? American civilians, me. He mentioned me and half of the people viewing this multiple times and talked about using the military on civilians and the rationale behind that. And it's other people have done it. Why can't I do it? Invading blue cities, using Chicago as a training ground for the military, and just... Look, here's what I'm going to say. A lot of people are worried, but I can almost guarantee you that every single general and admiral in that room listened to this fucking tired, old, crazy man talk, and in their head they were thinking, this guy's a fucking joke. Because I watched Trump's speech, and he just rambled and rambled, talking about how much he loves firefighters and how they're getting shot at while they're on a ladder. He's the Mad King, is what he is. And I think every general and admiral in that room recognized that Trump is a fool. I just hope that for the next 3 years, something globally serious does not happen. Because I do not want this administration having to make very serious decisions. That keeps me up at night.
Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are.
This is a stunning violation of operational security that puts Americans at risk. By announcing where all of our top military leadership are gathered, Pete Hegseth effectively handed our adversaries a target. Our military leadership does not need a lecture from a talk show host about warrior ethos. Over years of service, they've proven their effective leadership and need to be forward deployed at their posts, keeping us safe. This meeting is a distraction and a dangerous waste of time.
No more anonymous complaints, no more repeat complainants, no more smearing reputations, no more endless waiting, no more legal limbo, no more sidetracking careers, no more walking on eggshells.
That's Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announcing a new effort to overhaul the military's watchdogs, restricting investigations into abuse, corruption, and fraud, making it harder for service members to safely report abuse, and wiping unfavorable personnel records. He says it's a way to liberate officers from woke culture, which really just means permission to abuse others without fear of repercussions.
And yes, they can put their hands on recruits.
This is happening after Trump fired 17 inspectors general across the federal government designed to erase oversight and transparency. And the military needs it the most because abuse is extremely common. According to the VA, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 50 men responded yes that they'd experienced sexual trauma during service. And most incidents involve perpetrators in a higher rank, and retaliation against victims is common, making anonymous complaints crucial. 4 out of 10 service members reported experiencing harassment, bullying, or hazing. And domestic violence is also extremely prevalent within the military. Domestic violence convictions more than doubled after Biden implemented reforms removing prosecution authority from commanders and assigning it to independent trial. But Hegseth values the careers of those in charge more than the victims of abuse, so he's putting the power back into the hands of commanders and out of independent oversight, which is too woke. And it's no mistake this is happening right as Trump is planning to send the military into U.S. cities to police Americans. What will they do to us with fewer constraints and more pressure to be aggressive?
Hear me now. I watched Secretary of War Pete Hegseth's briefing that he had with all them generals at Quantico the other day, and I'm a little shooketh. I mean, I'm not gonna get into the politics because that's just not what I do. I'm glad I just got 1 year left till retirement, but this is my warning for everybody else, people that's just joining, people that got 8 years left, whatever may have you. I'm just saying, ship up or you gonna get shipped out. That was the caveat that I got from that briefing. He's not playing with the military. I mean, and which is a good thing. Like, everybody should be in shape. Everybody should know how to do their job. Everybody should be competent. Everybody should be strong enough to be able to do their job. So, I mean, it's kind of like the stuff we already doing. I mean, units already doing PT every day, 2 PT tests a year, all of that stuff. But for the people that been slipping through the cracks, heed my warning now. Get it together. Shape up or I'll get shipped out back to the house.
Wait, we have to PT every day? Air Force doesn't PT every day? We still gotta eat crayons though, right? How are we supposed to maintain lethality and look lethal without shaving? Does anybody know what we actually do yet? Oh, okay, so we're still just basically Air Force. Got it.